Chaos Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a motherfucking smack addict. Bye. In a menudo style, direct fashion, you guys see the thumbnail, so you know what it is, man. We're going to get into the content of the day. But before we do, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content I'm kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support. We're going up. And I appreciate that, right? So, imagine being booked, stabbed, hit over 133 times. You know, it takes a lot to do something like that. We've all seen the Troy Kell video. A lot of us have. If you haven't, make sure you tap in and watch it. You know, and that individual literally booked somebody almost 100 times. Okay? You become desensitized in prison to the point where you just have a bloodlust or a bloodthirst, right? You give up on all reality, man, and you only look at what's right in front of you. To do something like this, to do a pegada, a removal, a stabbing in prison is not a simple task. It's not very easy. Not everybody could do it, okay? It takes a whole different level of commitment. It takes a whole different level of animalistic behaviors to perform an act like this. To stab someone repeatedly over and over again when there's no longer movement. They're gone, okay? The story I'm going to tell today is about a guy named Eric Minyon Romero, right, from Yakima, Washington. You know, a lot of people sleep on the Pacific Northwest. The Pacific Northwest is very gang related. There's a lot of individuals, a lot of homegrown gangs in the Pacific Northwest, and a lot of gangs that gravitated from different states, especially California, and kind of migrated and put a foundation and put reglas and rules and structure in place when it comes to the Pacific Northwest, okay? These guys are just like anyone else. There's a heavy population in Yakima, Washington of Mexicanos, Mexican nationals, as well as Chicanos, Native Americans, indigenous people. This is the DNA and makeup of that particular area. There's also a gang of Usos, Samoans, Tongans, Polynesians. Their presence is very heavy and very felt in the Tacoma, Seattle, Washington area. So you have a lot of gangs like Hilltop, Crip, and of course you have SOS Crips, and of course you have Nortenos and Southsiders that have established and maintained for several decades in the Washington area. But this individual was from a particular gang, from a particular city in the Northwest in Washington. See, Minyon was from Yakima, La Raza gang, which has a heavy presence and as well known as a Norteno gang in Yakima, Washington. Now, I've been through Yakima, Washington several times. In fact, more than others should know, right? And the Norteno and the Sureño war is definitely on. It's very familiar with like the upstate movement as far, when I say the Southsiders, as far as the guerra stays popping. Just like in Northern California in cities like San Jose, Merced, Modesto, Fresno, you're going to have a lot of back and forth, a lot of bodies getting dropped, you know, for no other reason than this is what these guys were being told. This is how they were laced. They were educated and indoctrinated with the facts that, you know, in California, this war has been going on for 50 plus years. Now, subsequently, things have changed. Okay, behind the walls, there is now what you would call an end to hostilities. More like some people consider it a truce. I don't. I consider it an end to hostilities, meaning a soft defensive stance. Still stay aware, but understand that there's no pleito. It ain't ongoing friction, but it could pop at any point in time. Real ones understand that. Seasoned guys know that. You know, that is not the case in Yakima, Washington. In Yakima, Washington, it's all out war. And this is the story of Eric Minyon Romero. So, if you guys watch my channel extensively, like most of you do, you see that I dropped a clip the other day, a very controversial clip, and a lot of people chimed in. There was a lot. It seems like every time I drop a clip pertaining to a Norteño or a Sureño, man, there's a lot of people that got an opinion. Whether it be from a racial tip where people, you know, oh, the Mexicans ain't about shit, or people are doing it just to be a keyboard warrior and talk their high power shit because that's about as far in the game as they're ever going to get. There are also a lot of comments made by either guys that are active Norteños or Southerners, and they feel some type of way, and I can understand that. Seasoned guys and veteranos see it for what it is, a lost cause and somebody that, man, has taken a dark turn down a dark road, man, to which there is no end. I was once on that road, so I could tell you for facts, right, how it ends. But this guy, Eric Romero, man, it was a well-known individual from Yakima, okay? A Norteño through and through. He was educated and believed in the righteous path and in the total victory of the Northern movement. And there are a lot that think like that, okay? What I considered Eric Romero was the O-Dog of the Norteno movement. Okay, O-Dog like menace to society. Young, brown, and just don't give a fuck, right? Some people are laced a certain way, and what happens is they become so entrenched in the gangbanging aspects of the game. They become so wanting to be on the front lines, having frontline status, meaning you want to be in that first wave. You want to be right there, let everybody know you represent your body, you represent your cause, and this is what it's going to be. Now, it takes a lot of dedication to do that. So I respect that. But with that also comes a lot of, a lot of turmoil, a lot of harsh reality, a lot of understanding that you're going to go through a struggle in life. Pretty much you're sacrificing your life. You're making that ultimate sacrifice for a cause that you believe in that has been fought for many, many years. This guy did that. So if you guys watch that clip, you got a little lightweight bit of an understanding. I'm going to give you more of an understanding of what this guy actually did, because there was a lot of people saying this and that. He checked in. He's no good. He's a PC case. He's active. There was a lot of he said, she said, a lot of shit going on behind the scenes. But I'm going to give you the knowledge you can't get in college and the true facts surrounding this guy. So the clip that I showed you was of him basically in a standoff with the Yakima Police Department at his home. They came to raid his home because he was under suspicion of earlier that day committing a drive-by. Now, we all know that drive-bys have been X'd out when it comes to being a gang-related member. Okay, in the 90s, there was dictation put out. There would no longer be drive-bys. North and South, Crips and Bloods shied away from it too because a lot of innocent victims were getting hurt. And it was drawing unwarranted and unwanted attention, to organizations and groups that didn't want that. They were not going to be slammed and RICO'd and all this because there was a youngster man with the gun that didn't know how to act. And instead of just walking up to someone and handling their business like a true gang member is supposed to do, they were doing the coward way. They were driving by in cars. And I mean, this was very popular in the 80s after the movie Colors came out. Boys in the Hood came out later on. Doing drive-bys was kind of like the thing to do. It was the simple and easy way out. You could just shoot without looking, and whoever got hurt and got hit, as long as they weren't from your barrio, it was A1 from day one, right? Guard, but it wasn't right. And the powers that may be seen that it wasn't right, and seeing how much unwanted attention that it was getting them. And once it starts to affect the bigger process and the bigger plan, it becomes a thing that cannot be done anymore. So of course, collectively groups came to an understanding that the drive-bys should be X'd out of the plan, man. It was just a cowardice move. I always thought it was, man. If you feel some certain way and if you're going to get strapped up and go handle your business for your hood or your barrio and represent your cause, then get off the fucking car and do your thing. That's just what it is. So it kind of, the drive-by thing became a thing where if you got incarcerated for it, you were going to have to answer some serious questions. And unless you had them serious answers and them righteous answers, you could find yourself on the other end of some steel. You can be getting some iron put in you, right? Just because you did what they considered a cowardice move. And in prison, a cowardice move and disrespects are the ultimate betrayals when it comes to a group. So this guy Minyon was under suspicion of doing a drive-by. Now, I'm not aware because he lived in Washington and Yakima, that wasn't the rules that were in place there, or he just didn't give a fuck. You got to understand, everybody is their own man. Everyone does what they want to do. You could tell them, you can lace them up, you can educate them, you could guide a horse to water, but you can't make them think, right? You could do all that. Ask Money Mike, he said it in Friday. But this guy was under suspicion. Now, it was an allegedly, okay? He allegedly was involved in what they considered earlier that day a drive-by on the enemies being the Southerners, right? Again, like I say, in Yakima, it's a smaller city in the Pacific Northwest. They go at it quite extensively back and forth, north and south. But the Norteños have the dominant numbers, meaning they are the bigger group. Now, this group, La Raza Gang, is comprised and made up of mostly Mexican, national, Chicanos, and indigenous Native Americans. There's a lot of natives in the Pacific Northwest, and a lot of them have always leaned toward the northern side just because they have something in common, being that struggle, and the Native Americans, man, have just kind of fell into that indigenous group and got with the Norteños. That's just the way it is, man. Hey, I'm sure if the Southerners were the deepest, man, it might have went that route. Natives are different, man. They have a lot of their own homegrown gangs and their own beliefs, and a lot of them are religious beliefs. But there are a lot of natives in Norteño movements, or the Norteño movement, excuse me. So anyways, This guy is under suspicion for a drive-by. He goes to his pad. Of course, if you guys seen the clip, if not, tap into it. The black guys come to his pad. The cops come to his house. They surround, but they're kind of at a standoff because they know that this guy is heavily armed. Doesn't leave home without it. Is well known in the Yakima area to be a shooter, a hitter, and will get off, allegedly, right? And like I said, the old dog of the Norteno movement, one of those guys that was all in, no halfway in or halfway out. His feet were firmly planted on the cement that he fought for. So again, there's going to be people that say, come on, man, don't glorify this guy. And I'm not glorifying him. I'm just telling you the straight up truth in his story and how it led him on this road, man, and how we lost several lives in the process. This guy had a different type of mentality. He had a real gangster mentality. See, there's a difference between gang members and gangsters. Gang members can be anyone from a body or a neighborhood that just happened to grow up there. You're just placed there. You fucking moved there when you were young and you started hanging around with the homies, and all of a sudden, homies, you're accepted and embraced. And you're never really into the gangbanging stuff, but you like to drink and fuck tortas. That's about as far as it goes with you. This guy was totally different. This guy was in and out of jail, and everybody in that city knew, and he instilled a little bit of fear in them. You either loved him or you hated him. Of course, if you were Norteños, you loved that type of homeboy. The type of homeboy that will handle business just like that. But then again, there are those in the same movement that do not like those type of homeboys, because those are the type of homeboys that are always stirring up controversy, causing drama, and getting homeboys caught up. I was one of them homeboys that every time I got out of prison, I got right in the mix. I got heavily involved and initiated into fucking what was going on in them streets, and I quickly caught up and started making moves. Power moves wearing shower shoes is what I called it, right? But here's some knowledge you can't get in college. There was a lot of homeboys behind the scenes that didn't like that because I was fucking up their flavor, their vibe, their rhythm, what they had going on. So there was a lot of times I was highly suspicious of my own homeboys that I thought I was willing to die for and fight for, were actually the ones calling in and reporting on me, trying to get me eradicated and off the block because they understood the way I was thinking and the mentality that I was bringing, which was the eradication of all Southerners in our city, and of course, any opposition that posed a threat to our movement. A lot of homeboys were like, let them Vatos do them, we do us, because they had never been in prison and they didn't have the education or the understanding and weren't wired or programmed that way. Okay? But this ain't about me. This is just how it coincides with what Minyon was doing. So Minyon had even a worse mentality than I did. He had a shoot first mentality, not questioning it. I sit back and I reflect and think about his education, who educated him and laced him up, because obviously there was a lot of hatred in his heart. So he must have went through some struggle and some situations, man, that he just couldn't fight his way out of, and I've been there, man, where you got jumped on or you got put in situations where you were outnumbered and you start to get a bitter taste in your mouth. You start to get an understanding that, hey, these other Vatos, man, have that wolf pack movement where they'll fucking jump on you when they're deep, and it's just it's a cold existence, right? But it's part of gangbanging, and it's all about where you're at, not where you're going, because you're going to be going somewhere. So this guy's in his home, and it's surrounded by cops. And let's look at the scene here. In the clip, the cops are yelling through a megaphone for him to come out to submit to restraints because he's under suspicion for this drive-by. Of course, at this point, he thinks his life is over. Now, if he would have came out for a mere drive-by where nobody was really hit, he kind of just would go through the motions, the court system, probably get a slap on the wrist, go to the state, do a few years, and get out and be able to wiggle and live a productive life, if that's what he chose to do. But he wasn't going out like that. He chose to, in his mind, whether it was because he was on drugs or alcohol, because a lot of the times when it's alcohol fueled or drugs fueled, you're not thinking straight. You're not yourself, right? So he chose to do a standoff. And of course, in the midst of the standoff, allegedly there was shots fired at the cops and back and forth. And of course, 3 officers, I don't know if they were hit or the bullets came close, but eventually they were able to get this guy, restrain him, lock him up, right? And now he was under suspicion of not only this drive-by, but also the attempted murder of 3 officers. Now, you already know with that charge right there, with refusing to fucking, basically refusing to be incarcerated, with shooting at cops, man, it's going to be a rough road for you. Now it has become 3 attempted murders. Now it has become something different than rather just a drive-by on other gang members. Now it's become a point where you might not get out. So in the clip, he's saying that's on Norte, you know, and we're going to take there in a minute, but he's not going to be locked up. He ain't going out like that. I think this guy was trying to go all out, meaning if you guys are going to shoot me and get me, get me. It didn't come to that point. Maybe he wanted it to, right? But he made a lot, and it's funny because I remember back in the days I had to check one of my cellies. There was a lot of homeboys that used to say that. That's on Norte, fucking, I used to go over here. That's on Norte, I used to go over there, right? And I used to tell him, hey, bro, don't do that. Don't, you know, this was a YA game. CYA, Youth Authority. Don't put it on Norte. Don't put it on your dead homies. Don't put it on your family. Anything that is really righteous to you, because if you fuck up, homes, that's on you. If you put something on the, you know, and we had to do a removal because of that. Vato, that's on Norte, I'll handle these white dudes, right? When it came time, push to shove, the Vato's like, oh no, I don't want that piece, I'll just do it with my hands. Nah, you put it in. The homie bad boy from Sakura, I told him, you put it on Norte, homie, you'll handle it. Well, this is the way we want it handled. Oh, well, see, because the way my putting it on Norte game works, nah. And then we handled him. You know, unfortunately, red on red, but that was the situation. You got to watch what you say. Anyways, this guy's saying that, so when I heard that, it took me back to the YA times, and I was like, yeah, he's still living the life of a youngster. He was a young man, okay? He was young. He wasn't too seasoned. I don't know if he had any prison time under his belt, but I'm sure, you know, he was rocking in a northern fashion. He had the DNA and the makeup of a typical Norteño man, the long hair, the look, you know, the ways of thinking. So anyways, this guy gets locked up. But the story don't end there. Okay, so on the streets, people are like, wow, damn, the homie did a standoff, a shootout with the cops. That right there is enough to gain you your respect, especially on the streets, because not everyone is willing to do that, but it happens. So this guy gets locked up in the county jail, and of course he gets right in the mix. He gets cleared, he's in the mix with the active Norteños, man, and somewhere along the line, him and some of the homies come across a vato that they considered a dropout, or they considered, maybe they knew who he was, maybe he had a funny case. I'm not too sure. There's been a lot of different stories. And I wasn't the fucking cucaracha under his chancla to tell you, but I'll tell you this. Him and another individual, man, decided to do a removal. Okay, now, this removal encompassed running up in this guy's cell, allegedly, and stabbing him over 133 times. Again, being incarcerated, you become desensitized to these types of things because they happen all the time. But something this crazy, is not commonplace. It doesn't happen like that. You know, I've been or heard stories where people have got hit over 100 times. And you know, I know that in high desert, it was going down like that. There was pretty much a motto. If you don't hit them at least 100 times and have them metaflighted out, you didn't do it right. But this guy did that, man. Him and his crime partner, allegedly. And then they fought the case. The cold part of the situation is that it was reported that he sat there and played in the guy's sangre, in his blood, man, that he danced around in. And he was happy with what he did. He was comfortable in that skin, okay? Not everyone could do that. Not everyone's like that. So this guy made the ultimate sacrifice. His gangbanging didn't stop at the door. He didn't check in or PC up or decide it wasn't for him. He was all in. And I think when you come to a certain point in your life, when you're a gang member, man, and you kind of give up on life and realize, hey, I done did too much now. I'm in the corner. I'm backed in, homes. You either do two things. It's called the fight or flight syndrome. You either let it go and try to get your shit together and trying to salvage what's left of your life, whatever you can make it, or you go all out. Well, this guy chose to O-dog it and go all out to the fullest. Now, does that make him a gangster and respectable? No. It makes him feared by some, hated by most, and respected by few, right? Or however you want to look at it. Me, myself, I think this is a tragedy. I see a tragic thing here. I see another young homie, Chicano, brown man, that got misled and didn't get the proper education, and ultimately had to make the sacrifice, you know, at a very young age. Now, of course, every man is in charge and programmed to live their own life and do what they do. And I don't know exactly how they do it in Yakima. Maybe they're all out. I've heard a lot about them vatos, and they're with the activities, right? Very active, allegedly, right? But this guy is just unfortunate. It's a sad thing. It's a sad thing to see another young homeboy done. Life over. This guy was given, he went, him and his crime partner went, And of course, this is the difference between just who he was and how they looked at him in that county jail. His crime partner's bail was $1 million on this case. His was 10 million. So he was looked at as the primary, if not the ringleader, the guy who got all this together, right? When you're at that point in your life, man, it's pretty much over. But you don't succumb to the demons. It's never over in life. You still can live a decent life. Maybe not on the streets, but even behind them walls. You can educate yourself. You can breathe, As you become an older man and you start to get a grip and grasp on reality and what it is, then you get an understanding. Even if you want to be an active gay member and involved, homes, you need to give other homies the clecha so that they can go outside and make wiggle and make moves that's going to better help you while incarcerated, rather than just turning every homeboy out to be a straight killer. Because then you're going to, yes, have a whole bunch of soldados and killers behind them walls, but there's going to be no one on the streets functioning. And what happens when there's no one on the streets functioning? Well, other groups, oppositions move in, and now they plant flags, and now it's too late, homes. You won't get no foothold back in this door, and that's just how it is. That is the reason why a lot of upstaters and sureños from Northern California were able to establish, because a lot of the gente were incarcerated or off that dope or not properly educated. My era was all locked up, okay? People graduated from fucking continuation schools to CYA to prison. That was the steps you took. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. No in between. If you weren't a YA baby back then you didn't do it right. Everybody was a fucking YA baby. Everybody established that. You went to Paso, Nellis, YTS, Preston, Carl Holton, Owacha, DeWitt, Nelson, Ventura don't count, puto, right? And that's what it was. Straight up. If you didn't rock in any of those places, or don't have stories to tell, man, people just kind of looked at you like, what were you doing that whole time? Well, no, bro, because see the way that I was serving on the block. Yeah, homie. You were serving with the Glock while Vatos were serving with socks and rocks. Bam! Anyways, this guy, he ultimately got 80 something years and he's in state prison for this. And his life is over. Another young Chicano that fell in that vortex, man, and got sucked in. And it's unfortunate. But, and there's going to be a lot of people, well, he was mentally unstable or he wasn't thinking straight. Man, a man is a man. Whether you have mental issues or all that, and everyone's different. People do have that. I understand that. I truly believe that this guy was just misled and misdirected, man, and just truly didn't give a fuck. Some people are like that. Some are just born a little bit crazier than others, a little bit downer than others. Does it make you a cool guy or a down guy to go in too deep on someone who's unarmed and hit him 133 times? No, but that's part of the game. Shit happens. That's why you have to stay aware. That's why I tell these stories, for the youth to understand exactly what it is. One day you wake up, the next day you don't. Break up to make up, that's all we do. Sometimes you don't get to make up. You don't get that time back. Depending upon how your wigglization is and who you are, really truly matters. And how you carry yourself truly matters. That's why a lot of the Norteños, the Southsiders, the blacks, the whites, when they're behind them walls, carry themselves with professionalism, are clean, educate their minds, stay ready and indoctrinated for guerra at all times. You have to understand it's a different animal while you're incarcerated. What you necessarily do on the streets don't matter compared to what you do in there, which truly matters. It always matters the direction your life is taking that day. Okay, so worry about it that day, but smart men plan ahead. So anyways, this guy, he's considered legendary as far as the Norteño movement in the Pacific Northwest out of Yakima. Again, I respect Yakima to the fullest. I go there frequently, man, and I got a lot of respect for them, vatos. I see it. I see the tagging. I see there, to me, this is just what it was. Maybe not now, but a few years ago, I believe the Pacific Northwest was like 10 years behind in gangbanging. Not that they weren't fucking down. They were doing what we were doing in California 10 years ago. They were barely getting into the hyphy movement and barely going out there fucking shooting people and stabbing people. I mean, they've been doing it for years, but I'm saying it was at its height, just like it was for us, like 93, 94, right? So the gangbanging was real. Anyways, this guy is a product of that environment, and ultimately his life is over, man. I hope that one day laws change and he's able to get some get backs and get on out to the streets and change his life and be a productive member of society and just be productive for his familia. But he's another unfortunate casualty in our brown movement of somebody, man, that just went all out and did it to the fullest. So for those that are in the comments speaking on the guy, oh, he's in protective custody, he's a punk, he's a sucker, man. that's something you probably wouldn't want to tell that guy personally, because his ways of thinking are much different from an individual that will be behind a computer just talking that high powered shit. He's with them activities. Very respected, man. Again, I'm not here to glorify or highlight his achievements within the Norteno movement, but I'm here to say that there's vatos and hitters and shooters and smackers from every different group, man. Don't sleep on it. With that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming. And remember, at the end of the day, it's all about the strive to struggle, the struggle to strive. And I'm going to continue to do what I do right here on Gunners Collective TV. And I appreciate all the support. With that being said, trip out on this. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I got to strive and struggle and give you the realest and the illest stories I can, man. Because there's some truth to it. Bang, bang.